Moving right along with 9.4, the StringBuilder class, before we get into everything, let me suggest that this particular section is a down payment on the future, like I mentioned in the intro. For everything that we've been doing, we have never really stressed the Java runtime environment that we have been creating our applications for. So no matter what we do, if we have a loop, if we have multiple nested loops, if we accidentally create a nearly infinite loop, not taxing anything, the files that we've been using, not very large, the amount of work that we've been doing on strings, not very stringent. And all of that is well and good because for a lot of the systems that you are going to be running your Java applications on, you are going to have a tremendous amount of computational overhead available to you. You're just going to have a ton of raw computing power there. The StringBuilder class suggests that you won't always have a ton of raw computing power available to you. So what StringBuilder does is it does two things. It changes to make smaller the size of your string. Because remember, a string is an object, and a string has to be contained in memory in contiguous memory slots. So it has to go, from start to beginning, we have to have enough space in memory to be able to store a string. And by its nature, Java gives you a ton of extra available space. And every time we change that string, so every time we copy it, every time that we add something, every time that we concatenate something, what Java is really doing is it's making a copy of that string and returning you that copy. And sooner or later we run out of space. And that turns out to be inefficient, and actually it turns out to be terminal when we're looking at really small, low-powered devices such as Internet of Things devices. Think about things like your DVR, think about things like the radio in your car. Those really are not these big computational super devices, right? They're really crummy small ones that are built to go do something very, very simple. So the StringBuilder wrapper helps us get around the muddy situation that we as developers create when we work on strings. So in the same way that we had the constructor for primitive data types in previous, or the constructor rather, not primitive data types, for non-primitive data types in previous chapters. So we would have a constructor for our classes that we were developing. The StringBuilder also has a no argument constructor. My apologies, this is on page 580. So StringBuilder, and then with those empty parens, that is calling to the StringBuilder's class constructor. More often than that, what you will do is one of two things. You will either call to the overloaded constructor here, the second one that has an int, and that is the length. So you would have a string with 10 characters, you would have a string with 100 characters, so on and so forth. Or you would call and pass to that StringBuilder constructor, you would pass another string, and then your StringBuilder object would only be as large as the string that you pass to it. The advantage to doing this is the object you have created, we can now make changes to that object, unlike the string we would have used before, which was immutable. That means it cannot be changed. We would have to make another new copy of it. So the value there is that we save space, and there really are applications, there really are platforms where every last bit, and I mean that like bits and bytes, bit of space is an important consideration. So here on page 581, we see what the syntax for that would be. So StringBuilder, that's our type. So in the very same that we would have a class or we would have an integer, etc. Then the name of our variable, so that would be city, equals new. That's important. That equals new is what is creating for us the new object that we have to create there. So new StringBuilder, and then in the parens we are passing to the StringBuilder constructor the string called Charleston. The other nice piece you'll notice here is we can simply have a sysout, and then inside of our parens we can have the name of our StringBuilder type, so city in this case, and it's going to automatically be able to output that on a line for you. So it's nice to be able just to use that print line method. This way it saves you, several characters worth of typing. So here, this is still on 581, saying StringBuilder city equals, and then pass, or trying to assign it a value, Charleston, there inside of the double quotation marks. That will not work because just like we saw with the array lists in the previous chapter, these objects cannot take something that is not in a wrapper class, so we need that object reference for it. We have all of these, and this is 9-9 on 581. We have all of the same methods available to us that we talked about in the string wrapper class are available to you here in the StringBuilder Wrapper class. The additionals we're going to put here are .append, so string or city.append, and then we would pass to it something. So we can see this little code listing here on 582. So all that does is at the end of the string that we had created, in the StringBuilder rather object that we had created with the call to the StringBuilder constructor, we slap at the back of it the value that we have in there with append. So we sold 12 donuts for $15.95. Append, 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 append. We started at the top, we work our way down, and we just, onto the very back end of that string, we slap more content into there. This is much more efficient from a storage location perspective when we're dealing with the internal workings of our Java runtime. Insert is similar to append in that we are going to take our StringBuilder object and someplace inside of it with an integer number we're going to give it, how many characters we want that insert to go, and then we're going to add the new content there. So I don't believe that that's shocking to anybody. Replace does exactly what it sounds like. This is on 583. We are going to start at a given integer. That's going to give us the element of our string array. And from there we are going to replace however many characters we say with something, with a string, for example. So here the example, and this is on 583. This is super contrived. If we know we have to start at character 14 and continue to character 21 because New York is 8 characters long, we can remove Chicago and we can replace it with New York. That's a really weird use case for that, right? More valuable for this would be if we were reading in again from 9.1 and 9.2, if we were reading in a part number and we were creating copies of objects that we were passing over, or we were creating new part numbers for new parts as they were coming in. What we could do is take that string object, we could remove the middle portion. So if it's AAA screw BBB, we could remove screw, we could remove bolt, we could remove nut, whatever's in the middle, and we could replace it with whatever our new part number would be. So that, again, I understand with the size and the scope of the applications that we've been developing so far, you're thinking to yourself, that seems like a long way around the block for nothing. And you're right. For the applications that we've been developing, it is a long way around the block for nothing. But the benefit of Java is that we can code once and deploy anywhere. So the code I write on my, big 27-inch iMac with tons of cores, with tons of RAM, with tons of SSD storage, that's not going to be the only destination I can write that for. So we do have to be conscientious about how we take up space. So the StringBuilder Wrapper class for strings that we've been using all along help you be really conscientious with your space.